news. Liam Watts is facing a spell on the sidelines after rupturing tendons in his finger. The Tigers prop went off in the first half of the club's victory over Hull KR. He's set to miss several weeks of action after he suffered a similar injury last year, which kept him out for 6 weeks, albeit on a different finger. But it's a bit weird, isn't it, that he's kind of got the same injury as he had last year. Important player for Castleford, so it will be interesting to see how they go without him.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a similar mechanism, if there's something he's doing that's sort of putting his hands in that position to do it. I don't know.
Well, I can't remember him having loads of finger issues in the past, so maybe the issue is that he's not using his fingers to throw as many punches and do as much dirty stuff and get suspended, and all these natural suspension breaks he used to achieve when he was at Hull FC have disappeared now. Is it Castleford?
Well, maybe just hardened all the ligaments up because he was tensing them up half the time because he's not keeping them as tense. It doesn't feel natural for him.
Certainly, those natural breaks he used to receive were obviously a help, and now he's not getting them, so he has to get injury breaks.
Speaking of Cass, Sam Hall has signed a full-time contract with Castleford until the end of the 2021 season. The 17-year-old made his Super League debut in the win over Wigan Warriors earlier this season. Blake of the Cass youth system to become a full-time player. He joins the likes of Jacques O'Neill, Callum Turner and Lewis Peachy.
Yeah, and in a way that transitions from Super League news into Championship news, another Castleford story. They've confirmed that young winger Lewis Carr has joined York City Knights on a dual registration deal, so expect him to be bolstering the numbers for the Knights as they look to get their first win of the Championship season.
Yeah, I suppose the question for York is, will they start the car? Halifax have completed the signing of halfback Liam Harris from Hull FC. Harris will join Fax on an initial 1-month loan with a view to extending the deal until the end of the season. I honestly didn't realise he was still there.
Yeah, he is like the squad depth that they forgot about. But yeah, really important signing, I guess, for Halifax, especially when we move on to the sad news that their hooker Keil Carlisle has had to announce an early retirement from rugby league on medical grounds. In a statement released on social media, Carlisle, who's 29, says that he will hang up his boots in a decision made in the best interests of his family and long-term health. Some sort of heart issue that was identified, and basically the doctor said to him, stop putting yourself under the stress of playing rugby league pretty much straight away. We need to get this sorted. So good luck to him getting those health concerns sorted, and life after rugby league as well.
Yeah, moving further down into League One, Rochdale Hornets have completed the loan signing of Leeds duo Martin Ridyard and Brad. Doncaster
have signed Jamaican international Danny Bravo on loan from Batley for the 2020 League One season.
Yeah, son of Juliet and Johnny, I'm guessing.
Brother of Dwayne, I don't know.
North Wales Crusaders have announced that Timmy Nickow, son of NRL and Super League star Torreira Nickow, will join the club until the end of the season. I completely butchered that, I'm sure, but there we go.
Torreira Nickow is one of those players that I remember from when I sort of first got into games regularly 20 years or so ago, and I always thought he was dirty. So I don't know if he's sort of carry that same reputation. I think he's an outside back, whereas his dad was he a second row forward? I seem to remember him being somewhere
before my time, I think.
Forwards. Where are we up to? Some other sad injury news, this time coming from down under. Canberra Raiders forward John Bateman is expected to miss at least the first 6 weeks of the NRL season through injury. The Great Britain and England international has undergone shoulder surgery to repair an ongoing issue earlier this month. So hopefully he's back sooner rather than later, and knowing John Bateman, he'll be back as soon as he can be.
Yeah, or probably a little bit sooner than he's supposed to be. And here we go. Here's the meaty one you've all been waiting for. International Rugby League has published revised rules relating to the eligibility of players in the international game. The key points are Eligibility to represent a nation is based upon the birthplace of the player, the birthplace of any parent or grandparent, or residency over a 5-year period. A player can only elect to represent one nation in any calendar year, and electing to represent a country has changed from playing for that country to being named in a 19-man squad or a final tournament squad in a 9s competition for that country. A player eligible for any nation other than Australia, England and New Zealand can only make one switch between those nations in a 4-year period. Players qualified for the top 3 plus any other nation can make multiple switches. However, they can only elect to represent one nation in any calendar year. And players can only represent one of Australia, England or New Zealand in a career, even if eligible for more than one of those nations. If eligible, they can play for nations outside of those 3. Players cannot represent any Australia or New Zealand if they've elected to represent Great Britain and vice versa. So that's going to be called the Hastings rule. And no player can play for more than one country in any recognised global event.
So obviously that last one's pretty much a no-brainer, and I don't think we've had someone turn out for 2 sides in the same tournament before. But I
suppose it's just in case they do a World Cup over Christmas or some Christmas and New Year, and it goes in. Yeah, someone switches between January the 1st and yeah.
It took a few readings for me of the bit about person who's eligible for countries other than England and Australia and New Zealand can only switch once in a 4-year period. Yet apparently players who can... It just seems unfair. So basically, you don't qualify, which will be not very many of the players that play rugby league, to be fair, because residency over a 5-year period probably has been established by most of them in either Australia or England in their careers. But if you can play for countries other than them, but you can't play for them, you're only allowed to switch once in 4-year periods. So say you're eligible to play for Samoa and Tonga, but have never earned eligibility to play for Australia or New Zealand, you can only move...
Which is rare in itself, but yeah.
You can only move
because
once.
They're likely to have residency by that point.
Yeah. So you can only move once in a 4-year period if you're one of those players. However, if you can play for Australia and Tonga, for example, and Samoa, you can make multiple switches. It doesn't seem to make that... But I think this is a work in progress. I do think everyone wanted the rules to be tightened up, didn't they? The introduction of the 5-year residency rule, that's extended it significantly. Was it 3 years before? So that's
3 years, yeah.
So that's made things sort of...
we'll call that the Rainy Chase rule.
Yeah. Or the... Who was it... Who was it who played for New Zealand? Was it Lance O'Hire? He sort of lied about having a grandma or something. That was Kiwi, but then managed to qualify through residency anyway for them to be able to play in the World Cup in 2008. I think that might be who it was. Or one of the players in that squad anyway at that time. But yeah, they also released a statement kind of saying we will keep reviewing these in a sort of changing world to make sure they still make sense and stuff. But do you think it's kind of gonna be looked at?
No, Lance O'Hire was born in Hamilton. So
right, so it wasn't him.
Yeah.
Maybe. Oh, was it Brent Webb?
That sounds more likely because he was quite Aussie.
So do you think it would have changed the decision of people like Hastings in Austin in the autumn last year? Because now, like, Hastings could go back to the NRL next year, tear it up, and he will never be able to play for Australia.
Yeah, I mean, that's, for us, from a selfish point of view, in that terms, it's good. I suppose what it will stop, potentially, is the sort of... the players who are just below that level that have got a potential chance in the future. So, or someone like Tyson Frizzell, for example, it would stop them potentially moving. Yeah,
so he can't play for Great Britain now, but he can still represent Wales.
Yeah.
Just he can't represent Australia and Wales in the same year.
Yeah.
Is how
so he can't play for Great Britain, which is, fair enough, but that's the way that reads. So, which is it is that second, rank and a half below that could have got grandmothers, etc. So it's a case, and it sounds like it's also more of a case of locking them up early. So it's trying to get them in early, so that they've made that election.
England will play tons of games against France or Wales or whatever, and just get people in.
Yeah. So Herbie Farnworth, for example, he could we could get him in if he get him put a shirt on him, and there he's tied in.
Yeah, before he gets to
stop him once he's
5 years. Yeah.
Because he'll be 3 years later, and he'll be eligible for both if he does well.
He's one of the players we talked about on the NRL Brit Player Special. So another one of the players we had a good chat about where we expect him to go in his future career. And finally,
is it Salford?
Sorry.
Is it Salford?
We talked about. Well, maybe. I don't want to bring too many spoilers in, but there was some question marks about some of the players that are in the NRL and their long-term viability there. So I don't want to spoil too much. Go away and listen to that one. And finally, and it's a sad and finally to talk about, former Hull FC forward Adam Marr has died at the age of 47. The Australian back rower, who scored 25 tries in 100 appearances for the club from 2000 to 2003, had been suffering from motor neuron disease. He was in the side that when the club moved to KCOM from their former home at the Boulevard. He also played for Rochdale Hornets during his time in England and played in the NRL for Cronulla Sharks. Mark was a guest of honour at Hull's game against Castleford in 2019, when more than £15,000 was raised for him and his family at a dinner later that day. Our condolences go out to Adam's family, and the Hull FC club have said everybody at Hull FC would like to send their heartfelt condolences to Adam's family in a club statement. We would echo that as well.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's yet another victim of motor neuron disease. It's a worrying amount of former players from this professional era that are now coming out with it.
Yeah, and it's a sad loss. Obviously, living to the age of 47, he was a bit older than Rob Burrow when he was diagnosed with the condition, and obviously he must have declined quite fast over the last year, which is a very sad thing to think about, because he seemed, well, he was quite active when he was at the game for Hull FC last year. If I remember, he was walking around the pitch and talking to people and stuff. So very, very sad when people have this disease when they hit that decline phase, and it's really, really sad news. And like we say, condolences to his family and friends.
There we go. That is the news.
Yeah, we'll now move on to Super League's match reviews. Okay, so it was round 5 of the Super League this weekend, and we have an average attendance figure of 7,663. Though that comes with the Toronto St Helens game having an estimated crowd figure, which is really annoying, Tim. Really annoying. Hugely frustrating.
Because it's only a professional stadium where they manage to get a crowd figure every other time it's used.
I don't know if it was the way it was reported or what, but I'm very frustrated by the whole thing. I might send an angrily worded email to the Toronto Wolfpack to get an accurate figure, but we'll see how I go.
Maybe if they'd held it in London as they told everyone, then it wouldn't have been a problem.
Maybe so. Although it meant plenty of St Helens fans were there. Not that we could hear them for the first 20 minutes of that game, but we'll get to that game in a little while. And I'm sorry to do this to you, Tim, but we need to start on Thursday night. So do you want to take us through the vital statistics from that match?
Yeah, at half-time it was 8-6 to Hull KR. Oh, you want me to talk about the rest of it? It finished Hull KR 8, Castleford 28. It in front of a near bang on average 7,400